G'day athletes, Keith the Kilt Man Robinson here. Welcome back to another episode of the Kilted Athlete podcast. Now, I've been doing a couple of sound tests here. I'm in a room that has quite a noisy fan. It's a rather hot day, so hopefully the fan doesn't come up too much in the audio. I've kind of adjusted the volume and things to try and reduce the sound of the fan, but if the fan is coming up a bit in the audio, I do apologise. So anyway, this episode is about a few running technique tips. So I know if you're a non-runner, you're probably thinking, oh, he's done 2 running podcasts in a row now, 2 weeks in a row, another running podcast. Rest assured, I will get back to other topics again. I've just got running fresh on my mind at the moment. As I said last week, I am training for a half marathon. I know some of the listeners in this of this podcast are currently training for running events coming up in the next couple of months. So I kind of wanted to, I guess, kind of talk about the topic while it's fresh in mind and while it's relevant to some of you listening. So running tips. Now, I've got a few little running technique tips here, and some of them might be like common sense. Some of you guys might be doing these already, and you may not need this podcast. Your running technique might be, spot on or almost spot on, but have a listen anyway. Some of these things you might not have thought about, and might just tweak your style a little bit. So running doesn't need to be complicated, but there's a few little things that will help your efficiency in running. A few little technique tips that I'd like to pass on to you guys. And there's only a few, like 3 main ones in particular that I'm going to talk about. There's other tips, technique tips out there and things, but look, for the most part, most of them come under the umbrella of the 3 things I'm going to talk about in this episode. So the 3 main techniques technique tips I'd like to talk about is posture, arm swing, and foot strike. So if you think about the way posture is the way we hold ourselves while we're running, arm swing is what's actually happening with our arms, and believe it or not, is a lot more important than what people seem to think it is, and foot strike as well. So and this is kind of a checklist. So as you're running, you can kind of run through this checklist in your mind and see like what you're actually doing and if there's anything you can improve or fix in your technique. And improving running technique is going to improve efficiency. It's going to improve speed, the distance you can run, because you're able to run more efficiently, so you can run for longer, you can run faster. So a few little things here you might be able to tweak to sort of improve your running style and running efficiency a bit. So let's go straight into this first one, because this is probably the one that takes the most. There's a few sub points in there. So the first one is posture, but there's a lot of kind of sub points in the posture. So it takes kind of a bit more to explain. There's a kind of a checklist. So I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to simplify this. I'm going to go head to toe. We'll talk about what's going on from head and work your way down to the bottom. So let's talk about our head. So the way we're holding our head, we kind of want our ears over our shoulders. So we don't want to have our necks craning forward, our kind of our nose in front of the rest of our body. If you think ears over shoulders, you kind of set yourself up right from the start. So and you can kind of check this as you're running along. because as we get tired, we kind of tend to like put our heads forward more. It strains your neck. And this isn't just a running thing. You'll see people walking around, standing around with their kind of like head protruding forward. And we'd like to say that this is a modern thing or blame this on mobile phones because obviously when you pull out your mobile phone, you kind of crane your neck and look down at your phone, um, which I'm actually doing now because I'm recording this on my phone. And I'm actually like watching the sound waves, making sure I'm talking at a consistent level. But anyway, that's another thing. We don't want to be constantly craning our necks down. And look, as I said, it, we'd like to say this is a modern problem and blame mobile phones like this, but I think the problem existed before mobile phones. I do remember seeing people in my childhood before mobile phones existed with these like protruded heads, heads further forward than the rest of the body. Um, so obviously mobile phones aren't helping the situation at all, but um, yeah, be aware of this. Just think ears over shoulders. Um, be especially aware of this if you're on a treadmill because treadmills have a screen, so we tend to look down at the screen, so we end up craning our necks down more. And I've kind of only just recently figured this out for myself. Running at the same pace on a treadmill seems to be more difficult than running outside of the same pace. And I kind of just tweaked it's because I'm actually spending too much time looking at the screen on the treadmill rather than looking ahead. So yeah, try to look ahead. Remember those old school movies where people used to walk balancing books on their heads? Similar kind of posture. I'm not saying go for a run balancing a book on your head, but keep your head upright. As I keep saying, ears over your shoulders. You don't look down. Obviously, you need to look down from time to time, so you're not tripping on potholes and gutters and snakes and things. But you kind of want to be glancing down, scanning down in front of you, but not running with your head hanging down. Um, so think about where you don't want. Imagine if you were to cross the finish line, there's like a big sheet of plastic wrap. Um, you don't want your head to be hitting this plastic wrap like before the rest of your body. It's more like your head's kind of in line with your chest. If you look side on from your body, you look like your head, chest should be kind of in line with each other. Your head shouldn't be further forward. So moving down from the head, as I said, your neck shouldn't be craning forward. Craning your neck forward, that's going to place a lot of strain on your neck. Whether it's running, whether it's just sitting down, whether it's driving, whatever you're doing, if you're pushing your neck forward, it's unnecessary strain you're placing on your neck. Having your neck forward is also going to kind of make it more difficult to breathe. So you kind of want that neck back and open. So yeah, as I keep saying, just think ears over shoulders. So moving down, we're going to talk about the shoulders now. So this is another common fault, I guess, in a lot of runners. They kind of either shrug the shoulders so they're up real high, or they have the shoulders forward, kind of arched, hunched forward. You kind of want to have your shoulders hanging naturally and back. So if you're shrugging your shoulders, that's going to place a lot of tension on your shoulders. You're also not going to be swinging your arms naturally. Um, you're just kind of more robotic and tense. So kind of your shoulders should be down and back as well. So What I mean by back is your shoulders kind of aren't arched forward like your shoulders should be back from your chest. So if you're looking side on, you got your chest first, and then your shoulders should be back. Shoulder blades squeezed together at the back. If your shoulders are forward, this is going to once again hamper your breathing, and also lead to soreness in your upper back and your traps. Once again, this posture issue isn't just a running issue. You see a lot of people are kind of have this slouched forward, hunched forward kind of position, where their shoulders are either rounded forward horizontally or vertically or both. So yeah, pull the shoulders back. Imagine you've got a medal on your chest, and you're kind of like sticking your chest out to show that to everyone. Think about birds, like when the male bird is trying to impress a female, it kind of sticks his chest out and does this little dance thing. So I guess for one of a better way of explaining that, you kind of want to stick that chest out, pull your shoulders back. This is really going to be a game changer with your breathing. Quite often people I run with and coach do have trouble breathing, and once they get the knack of opening up the chest, pulling their shoulders back, they find breathing a lot easier. Let's talk about torso now. They say torso, what I mean by torso is from kind of your hips up to your chest. That's your torso. You kind of want that to be upright, maybe leaning slightly forward. But when I say leaning, you're actually hinging at the hips slightly forward. So you may want to do that if you're running a bit faster. Say if you're going to put a burst of speed on, or if you're going up a hill, and you kind of need to adjust your center of gravity. So you do that by kind of leaning slightly forward with the torso. So you lean forward at the hips, not kind of like sticking your head further forward or hunching the shoulders further forward, but kind of like, kind of leaning more forward at the hips. But yeah, you kind of want to be as upright as possible. Except, obviously when you're going up that hill, the steeper the hill gets, the more you're going to need to adjust the center of gravity. So you kind of might need to kind of hinge forward, leaning into that hill. Now, what we're doing here is we're engaging our core. So, with what I say about engaging your core, just kind of like strengthen your whole core as you're running. So don't kind of, I guess, let your core slack off and go like all floppy, and let other parts of your body do the work, but just kind of like use your core to remain upright. Your glutes should be engaged as well. So, and this is not something you're going to physically see, but with running, a lot of people kind of have lazy glutes. I guess you could call them lazy asses. The glutes kind of the way our glutes are designed are our glutes are to keep us upright. They're to offset, like counterbalance our hip flexors and help to keep us upright. So it's important that we're making sure the glutes are doing the work. So when we run, our hamstrings and glutes should be working together in unison. A lot of hamstring injuries are actually caused or caused in part by not switching the glutes on when you run. So it's kind of a difficult thing to explain, but you kind of need a mind muscle connection between with your glutes. So they're kind of I guess squeezing a little bit through your glutes as you're running. You'll notice as you engage your glutes, you're going to get more propulsion with every step that you take. You're going to get more out of that kind of that bound that you're taking. So our hips are front on to where we're going. So we don't want our hips going in like all awkward directions. We want our hips to be square on and pointed to the direction that we're traveling. Having a strong core and strong glutes is definitely going to aid in more efficient and more effective running. So in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say with all these points is to run upright. Posture is very important. Posture is important in all things we do in life, but posture is important in running. Run upright. If we think from a head down, I guess if you have your ears over your shoulders and your shoulders back, chest out, everything else is probably going to fall into place. So yeah, just mainly focus on having like the head position, having the ears over the shoulders, having your chest out like that, like that male bird that's trying to impress the female, and bring the shoulders back. So from there, we're going to talk about arm swing. So who'd have thought that arms would play such an important part in running? But they do. And if you don't believe me, try running with your arms locked by your side, or put your hands in your pockets or fold your arms or something, and see how difficult that is. So arm swing is important because what happens is your legs are going to actually replicate what your arms are doing. They're kind of working a pendulum motion. So as one arm goes forward, the opposite leg goes forward. And that's the way we walk it and run. So, the opposite arm goes forward, then your leg. So if you lead with your left leg, your right arm's going forward, swing back, and the natural walking style. There is a term in the military when people try to march and they bring the same arm and leg forward at the same time. They call that square gating. And I think people just get confused because they overcomplicate what marching is and overthink it, and then end up doing something completely unnatural. But the natural gait is to like opposite arm, opposite leg, and whether you're walking, running, marching, whatever. Now this doesn't need to be complicated. I'll just talk briefly about it, but you may be doing it wrong, or you may be able to tweak it to improve your technique. It doesn't have to be complicated, but it is an important part in running, a far more important part than people kind of give it credit for. So as I said, your shoulders need to be naturally down. Don't go shrugging your shoulders. This arm swing can't be robotic. Can't be robotic and stiff. You kind of want to be swinging your arms naturally. Your elbows are kind of bent around the 45-degree angle, but it doesn't have to be exact. With your hands, don't squeeze your hands too tight. Just imagine you're holding an egg in each hand, and you don't want to break the egg. So imagine you're holding that raw egg. That's about as firm as you need to be gripping your hands. And make sure with your arm swing too that you're going all the way back with the elbows. So as far as the elbow will go back. So don't kind of like bring it to the side of your body, then push it forward again. Make sure it's going all the way back. So it's kind of recocking itself. moving forward. Now, if you want to run faster, here's a good tip. So a lot of people think running faster is like taking bigger bounds, but the way you want to run faster is to increase your cadence. So your cadence is how many steps per minute you're taking. Now, if you want to increase your cadence, start with your arms. If you pump those arms through quicker, your legs are going to emulate what your arms are doing. So just give it a go. Next time you're out for a run, give it a go. Go for a run and then decide, right, I'm going to run a bit quicker. And instead of trying to make your legs go faster, pump your arms faster. Your legs will naturally adjust to the pace that your arms are going. So anyway, that's point two, arm swing. Keep it natural. Don't over tense. Don't overcomplicate it, but yes, it is important. The only other technique, I don't see this in many people, but I have seen it from time to time, is as you're swinging your arms, you don't want your arm to cross the center line of your body. So if you're doing that, you're kind of like twisting yourself inefficiently, and it's kind of creating inefficient running, but also like potential chance of injury as well. So just if you think of an invisible line down the center of your body, don't let your arm cross over to the other side. So don't let your fist cross to the other side of your body as you're running. So that's kind of like the only real hard and fast rule I would say is, yeah, don't cross over to the opposite side of your body and be relaxed. Not too relaxed, don't be floppy around all over the place, but, don't drop that egg. You still want to be holding that egg, but don't squeeze that egg so it breaks in your hand. Funny thing, I've actually heard that technique, like imagine you've got an egg in your hand. Heard that plenty of times. I've never seen anyone run with an egg in the hand. Maybe I should give it a go one day. All right, so the third thing I want to talk about, third and then final thing is foot strike. So before I go on to talk about foot strike, I just want to talk about the difference between running and walking, which might be pretty obvious. It is pretty obvious, but just want to talk about that a bit to help explain how foot strike is relevant to how we're running. So the first difference between running and walking is walking, we need to have one part of one foot in contact with the body, with the ground, at all times. So it doesn't matter how fast you're walking, there's still one part of your foot in contact with the ground. If you may have seen on like Olympic walking events, people getting disqualified because they've become airborne. So you can't become airborne when you're walking. That's a no-no. But running, you are airborne. You do become airborne. So you're actually taking bounds with each step. Now, when you're walking, you strike, land the foot with the heel, follow through to the toe, push through to your next foot. So your heel, toe, push through, heel, toe, push through. And I just realized as I'm describing this, I'm actually doing this myself, walking around, putting my heel to toe. But essentially, that's the walking technique. That's fine for walking because there's very little impact. But with running, because we're airborne, if we landed on our heel, there's a lot of impact being absorbed by that heel, and that's going straight up to your knee. So you might hear people, if you start running, people tell you, oh, running is bad for your knees. Well, running poorly is bad for your knees. So if you if you continuously heel strike when you're running, that's going to affect your knees. There's a lot of pressure going up to your knees. So from an injury point of view, we don't want to be landing on our knee, on our heels. But also from an efficiency point of view, we don't want to be landing on heels either, because you're essentially putting the brakes on every time you put that heel down. So where you want to strike is more midfoot. So if you think that kind of area, if you look at the bottom of your foot, you've got your toes, and then you've got the arch. So kind of in that area between your toes and the arch is kind of where you want to be striking. And if you're not sure where you're striking, have a look at your shoes. Have a look at how they're wearing. If you've got a pair of shoes that you only run in, that's going to be a good indicator of where the wear is. If there's a lot of wear in your heel, then you're doing a lot of heel striking. But if you're kind of landing on that forefoot, midfoot kind of area, then that technique is a lot better, a lot more efficient, and a lot less impact when you're striking on that kind of midfoot area. Your calves become shock absorbers. So instead of the shock being worn by your knees, it's being absorbed by your calves, which is one of the purposes of your calves. And another point that comes under the foot strike kind of area is you want to minimize the time spent on the ground. So when the foot strikes the ground, you kind of want to flick and glide. You want to get off and get airborne again as quickly as possible. So that front kind of midfoot part of your foot is kind of like striking, but then flicking forward so to your next bound. So you want to be airborne more than you're actually touching the ground. It's kind of a bit similar to jumping a rope. So if you jump a rope, if you're landing on your heels, not only there's going to be obviously more impact on your knees, you're going to feel that in your knees, and you only have to um, listen to the sound you're making if you're landing on your heels, as opposed to if you're landing mid-strike. If you're jumping a rope and you're landing on your heels, you'll hear thump, 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 thump. If you're landing mid-foot, it'll be less noisy, not as much thumping. It'll be more light on your feet, and that's kind of what you want to be looking for when you're running, is to be light on that feet. You're just kind of like touching that ground with that forefoot, midfoot kind of area, and kind of like pushing forward, bounding forward, gliding forward, as opposed to like landing with a big thump. I can often tell when someone is heel striking even without looking at them, because I can kind of hear that thudding on the ground with their heel, rather than like hearing them gliding, flicking and gliding. So yeah, flick and glide, flick and glide. So anyway, they're my three big tips. It's kind of like a checklist, and you can check this out next time. Next time you're running, see if there's any improvements you can make. Once again, with your posture, most important thing is make sure your ears are over your shoulders and your shoulders are back. Then you've got your arm swing. Make sure your shoulders are kind of down and you're doing a natural arm swing. Make sure your elbows going all the way back with each swing. Relax, but don't be too floppy. And then you've got your foot strike. Try to land on that mid to forefoot kind of area of your foot. Try not to heel strike, and spend as little time as possible on on the ground. So try to be airborne or flick and glide. Yeah. So anyway, that's they're my tips for running more efficiently and running with kind of less chance of injury. So hope you guys got something out of that. If you have any comments, once again, pop them in the comment box. If you need to contact me, comment box, or you can email me at kiltmanfitness@gmail.com, or find me at the Kilted Athlete Podcast on Facebook or Instagram. And please like, share, do all that cool stuff, if you know got any friends that might get benefit out of this, share it with them. Yeah, so that's it, guys. All the best with your running. I know we've got some running events coming up soon. If you're in Australia, this is like the hottest time of the year to be training. We've had some pretty hot days lately, but we've just got to get in there and get the training done. All right, guys, have a great week. Talk to you later. Bye.